Hello, and thank you for the warm welcome. When I first started working at LOVOO, I knew very little about online dating. Trying to find love with an app was just way too crazy for me. I always thought that there would be just some stalkers who would kidnap and murder me. But since I was single back then, and you know, as an employee, you should try out the app yourself, I just decided to give it a go, and I started chatting with some guys. Yeah. Well, I found an interesting guy, and he even asked me out. Now, I still know how excited and nervous I was before my first date. Like, it was my first online date. And the funny thing was that on that moment, I was actually the stalker myself, because I stalked him everywhere I could on the internet, like on Google, on Facebook, even on Xing, which is like the German LinkedIn, just to make sure that this guy really existed. And he did. We had a wonderful date, and even though we didn't get together, we became friends, really, really good friends. So it's now really crazy to think that without LOVOO, I would have never ever met him. And I think this is what makes LOVOO so special. It connects people, and these connections can be life-changing. And I'm so happy that as a user researcher, I'm able to explore the topics like love and relationships every day at work at LOVOO. But I will come to that in a minute. First, let's find out what LOVOO is exactly. LOVOO was founded in 2012 by 7 founders, and currently we are based in Germany, in 2 cities, in Dresden and in Berlin. The LOVOO app, the main product of LOVOO, has gained more than 60 million users over the past 5 years, and it has become one of the leading dating apps on the European market. Now, this is really important. Our goal is to change people's lives by changing how they meet. So it's not just about bringing people together, it's really about making a difference in their lives. But how do we do that? In case of LOVOO, it's not just about human and design interaction, it's also about user-to-user interaction. That means that every experience one user makes with another user will be transferred to the product itself. For example, if a guy writes a really, really nasty message on LOVOO to a girl, then this girl will be probably unsatisfied with LOVOO, and she might even uninstall it, which of course, it's not that great for us. So we have to keep in mind that just designing a great interface isn't enough to make our users really happy. We have to think further. For example, creating a backend logic or algorithms that regulate the app economy. Another challenge that we face in our daily work is that the intention of our users doesn't necessarily match their behavior. In instance, we interviewed a guy who said that he's using LOVOO to find the love of his life. Well, instead of really trying to meet someone and, you know, writing messages to girls, he was using LOVOO to pass time, to look through some profiles, to feel entertained, to feel less alone, which of course is totally fine, but it's not what he was saying he was doing. So we understood that if we really want to change people's lives and if we want to make a difference, then we have to know our users to the core. Like we cannot look on the surface, we have to dig really, really deep. And this is exactly what we did. So last year we started a large research project with a goal of creating a shared mindset about our users in the company. So first out, we started with almost 40 in-depth interviews with our users. And then through a qualitative analysis, we were able to come up with qualitative user segments. Then, in the next step, we validated all this data with an in-app survey and with a cluster analysis, where we also linked the product usage data to the qualitative user segments. Besides the segments, we also came up with data-driven personas to make all this data easier to understand and also easier to work with for designers, product managers, and engineers. So here are all 9 LOVOO personas. As you can see, here are some successful guys like the From Lover to Love Lenny, but also some not so successful ones like the Lonely Hearts Club Chris. Yeah, you shouldn't laugh about your users. Well, I cannot show you all of them, unfortunately, but I will show you one example of one segment and persona card. So you probably cannot read it, but on the left side you can see some basic information about the segment, like the intention and the behavior of the segment, and also some product usage data, like how active are they in the match game, or how selective are they in the match game, or how many active chats do they have. And then on the right, there is one fictive person that represents that segment, which in that case is Lucy. And in the past, we were used to think like, okay, how would a woman use a certain feature? And now we are able to think, how would Lucy or Lena or Sandra use a certain feature? And it has made a big, big difference of how we design for our users. And it has helped us a lot to see the product through the eyes of the customers. In agile context, these cards are used in the ideation and design phase, also in sprint plannings and in sense-making of product usage data. Now, while this project has been quite a success, the road to customer-centric development and design hasn't been that easy. For us, the biggest challenge in UX research has been the communication. Like, on one hand, communicating the research results, because not everyone in the company is interested in user research and in user insights. And on the other hand, getting the stakeholders on board, because some of the stakeholders are really skeptical about user research, and many stakeholders think of themselves as people who know best what our users need and want. And these are really the toughest nuts to crack. So now I'm going to show you what we did to overcome these challenges. First thing that we did was the persona workshops. So these cards that I showed you weren't quite enough to bring awareness about our users to the teams. So we decided to organize these persona workshops to create user empathy in teams. One of the exercises that the teams did, for example, was that everyone had to introduce themselves as one of the personas. And you can imagine it was really, really funny. And it also helped to let them see that our users are real people with real wants and needs. So if you are using personas in your company, I can definitely recommend you to try out this kind of workshops. Another thing that we did was the reading club. So like I mentioned, we collected a lot of insights about our users in this big research, and we summarize it in a report. But some of the psychological and sociological aspects were quite complex, so we decided to organize a meeting series called Reading Club. And there we sat together with business analysts, with designers, with product managers, with C-level management to discuss different topics about our users. And we even showed them some user interviews in audio and video format. And this was really appreciated by our stakeholders a lot. And last but not least, user testing. Like, you have heard some things about user testing already, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But user testing has been the key for getting fast and actionable insights at LOVOO. And we have learned that it's better to keep the user testing a small thing. Like, the smaller the study, the bigger its impact. And normally we do user testing every week with no more than 5 to 6 participants. And it's really the best way to also involve the stakeholders and let them see that UX research is really worth it. All in all, there has been a huge mindset shift since the past year where we established UX research at LOVOO. Like all our new product and design ideas are evaluated by the research team, and new features are being tested before they release. And we can already see its success in user feedback and in product KPIs. So I really encourage you to try out user research if you haven't already. There is just so much to learn about your users if you just ask them. Start small with a simple usability test, and I promise you, you will gain so many valuable insights. And from my experience, I can say that despite the agile environment, in-depth interviews can be very, very useful as well. So don't be afraid to dig deep from time to time as well. Yeah, so that was it.